Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist for Burnt Out Rick, Alex Carmichael.
Alex. Hi there, everyone. How you doing, Raul? How everyone? How you doing?
Doing great. So we have so many interesting things to chat about, but as always, I have a cunning plan. Let's talk about how you got your beginnings in bass and in music particularly.
Okay. Well, I never started off wanting to be a bass player. I've got a little 6-string classic guitar that I got when I was about 10. Mm-hmm. And I went to lessons, but I was far too impatient. I just wanted to learn how to play a song. And the guy was a jazz musician, I think. He played in some quartet. And he was teaching me scales and chords and exercises. And God, I couldn't bear it. It was awful. So I stopped. And the guitar went top of the wardrobe for a couple of years. And then this would be the early 70s, I guess. And a band called Slade appeared in the charts. And I thought, wow, this is it. I love this. Got me right into music. Slade, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, everything went away. So the guitar was brought back down. I thought, I'm going to be a guitarist. Realised pretty soon that I couldn't play lead guitar because my pinky wouldn't work. Couldn't get my pinky in the left hand to work. It just kept hitting the same string as the other fingers kept hitting. So I thought, no lead guitar, I could be a rhythm guitarist. So I learned a few chords and that was cool. And I went to see my first ever band, the live band, in the local venue in Wishaw, where I lived at the time, the Heathery Bar. And a couple of my mates played in this band, which I didn't know about, guys from school. I had no idea that they were musicians. And there they were, playing all these cover songs. And one of the guys played bass, and it was awesome. It was all up down that fretboard. And I'm thinking, that's great, I could do that. So I went home, and I started learning bass lines on my little 6-string acoustic. Couldn't afford a bass guitar, so a good friend of mine who was a joiner to trade built me a bass. And there it is there. I'll show that to you. See that?
Oh, wow.
That's the bass. That's my Olive Cleves bass. So he made me that, and I started looking for a band. So a couple of guys I would be at school with knew a guy starting a band, so I went along. We rehearsed cover versions for about a year, never played any shows. And then a guy came down to jam with us, a guitarist who was awesome. And he headhunted me from that band to form a new band that he was starting. And that was me. That was a band called Trickster. Not the same Trickster as the American Trickster. This was a couple of years before that. And so that was me. I used that. Away we went, and we were out gigging away, cover versions, original material, the whole gamut. And that was me hooked. That was us away. So we did that for about 4 years. We were originally a 4-piece band, 4-part harmonies and stuff. And then the guy who formed the band decided that he didn't want to be the singer, lead guitarist anymore. He just wanted to be a guitarist. We'll audition a singer. And I don't think he really expected us to find anyone, because we knew everyone around in the circuit at that time. And there was no one as good as him. But by pure coincidence, the same guy who made my bass for me said he was doing the sound for us. He said, I know a guy, I sat beside him at primary school. He's a really good singer. He's never sang with a band, though. I was like, well, okay. Send him along. In walks Doogie White. I don't know if you've heard of Doogie White.
I have not.
Vocalist with Rainbow, Michael Schenker,
okay,
Yngwie Malmsteen, all of this. So Doogie walks in. He and I became firm friends. That band split up. We both get a call to go and audition for a new band that was going to be called La Paz eventually.
Okay.
Pair of us went and that. La Paz started. And then so we built that up, did gigs, couple of albums, got ourselves going. Doogie ended up going to London, became famous. Not that famous, obviously. But famous-ish. And that was me away. So I've just kept playing. I mean, that's been, 42 years probably.
Wow.
79, I think, Trickster started. La Paz, probably 84. And we still keep in touch with the guys from La Paz now. We actually get signed in 2011, would you believe?
Wow.
Doogie's record company heard some stuff that we've been just doing for ourselves. We decided, well, let's do some of the songs that we couldn't do properly back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got money now, digital recordings here. Let's just go and do it for ourselves. So we did that, and Doogie's record company heard the tracks and offered us a deal. I mean, fantastic. So we got an album out, record deal, and it must have done well because they offered us another 2-album deal.
Yeah.
So we did up to about 2016, I think that was. And then, so it was just for us. We weren't gigging or touring or anything like that. We would do the occasional gig for charity or something. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of 2016, I had been working in insurance. I was an insurance investigator. And I got made redundant at the end of 2016, which is just when I got the phone call from Gary Moat, who's a mutual friend with the La Paz drummer Paul McManus, who plays with Gun now. Paul called me up and said, I've been on the phone to Gary Moat, he's looking for a bass player, would you be interested? Absolutely, timing couldn't be any better, got no work anymore, loads of free time. So, yeah, tell me to give me a call. So Gary called me, would you be interested? He had a deal with the first album, Swallow, was already recorded. He was just looking for a band to go out and tour it and see what happens.
Mm.
I said, yeah, that would be great. Do you want me to come down and audition? No, I know what you've done. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So, and by the way, this is in November of 2016. It says, by the way, our first gig is in January. We're opening the main stage for Gods of Rock or something down in England.
Wow.
Okay. And at that time I thought he lived in Glasgow because he's Scottish. And he was from Heavy Petting, which were a Glasgow band. I said, yeah, great, no worries. He says, well, come down and we'll get a wee rehearsal together. Turns out he lives away down in England, 5 hours drive away. Bloody hell, here we go. So I drove away down there, introduced myself, how you doing? Got a rehearsal together with a drummer and Adrian, the guitarist that Gary had been working with for a while. He had done the album with him. And it all went very well. So I came back up the road, that's great. Got a phone call, got another drummer and a guitarist. Have you? Okay. Come back down next month. This is December, this is 2 weeks. In fact, it was a week before the gig.
Oh, wow.
So I went down there the week before the gig. Met the other 2 guys for the first time. And it just clicked. Everything was just awesome. Through the whole album, start to finish. Fantastic. Next week, we went and did the gig. Great. No problems at all. Loved it. And it's just been going on from there. Gary's a very prolific songwriter. And so here we are. I mean, that'll be almost 6 years now. But of course, COVID came in, so we had a 2.5 year break.
Yeah.
And so we've got our third album just about to come out next month. We're gigging at the weekend there. We've got a whole lot of shows coming up next year. I think next month we're doing Planet Rockstock. Now, Planet Rock's a big radio show and magazine and stuff over here. Very prestigious. So we're doing their festival. So fingers crossed that'll get us that couple of wee steps further up the ladder, and we can maybe see what happens after that. So yeah, I still use the same guitar as I had back then. I don't use the handmade one because after about a year, he had actually made the neck by hand as well and never put a truss rod in it.
Wow.
So after about a year, you could fire arrows through this thing. So eventually I thought, right, I must buy a proper guitar. So I went and got my Ibanez. And I checked that out. That was just 41 years ago. The 1st of November is when I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using that ever since. Every single gig, every song I've ever learned has been in that bass now. I'm still going strong with it. Well, now, that's where we are.
Very nice. Well, Ed, we'll come back a little bit to gear. But it's very interesting. I think one of the things that happens, especially for the longest time, record labels have controlled a lot of what gets heard where. There's like a geographic isolation. And so you could have a band that could be huge in Scotland or be huge in the UK, and in the United States, we won't hear it at all because
that's right.
The labels here are not pushing that content, and so it isn't until something can somehow push its way through, whether it's, again, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, as they call it here in the United States, the British invasion. It was just allowing that music that was happening to come in. And so there's this isolationist philosophy with record labels that has prevented a lot of the music in the world, because the same time that you might be playing in Scotland, there's a heavy metal band in Italy who may be going at it. There's a big rock band in Brazil who's doing their thing. But we never hear from each other. But now, thanks to the internet, a lot of times now there is more open flow.
And that's it. Yeah. I mean, it's just so global now, isn't it? You can be heard everywhere.
Absolutely.
We get Burnout Wreck feedback from the Philippines to Japan to the States to Australia.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. How did that happen? Which is great.
Yeah. So it's totally changed, and hence, in a big way, I won't know about people that, like, they're huge, like Doogie, as you're mentioning. Like, okay, I hadn't heard much about it. But again, that's why I'm always open to learning. Also, I'll mention, because it sounds like you're very much self-taught.
Yes, aye. Yeah, I never took any lessons for bass. I just played it by ear, really. Just picked it up as I went. Saw what other people were doing. I thought, okay, I can, like the simple octave change where you go from the lower E and you got the string to the high E and you can do a wee run up there. So effective, but so simple. Wee things like that. And I guess you're influenced by who you listen to as well. I suppose a huge influence for me, Doogie was a huge Blackmore fan. So I listened to a lot of Purple and Rainbow and Whitesnake and stuff. And I guess that influences you. Some of it's just too hard. I'm like, I'm not touching that. Forget it. But it leaves its mark on you, and you learn. You pick wee things up. You get little runs, ways of doing stuff. The one thing that I couldn't do, I don't play with my fingers. I use a pick, because I started off on the 6-string guitar, and it was an acoustic, and so everything I was learning was using a plectrum. So I just took that with me into the bass. If I'm doing a slow bass song, a blues song or something, I can worm my way through it without making too many huge errors. But
sure,
things like that, So you establish a wee style of your own, and you just try to stick to it, and you just try to fit in with whatever type of music is being produced by the band at the time. Burnout Wreck, I found it quite difficult with Burnout Wreck to start with, because when I was in La Paz and other bands I was in, you were trying to be as technically good as you could be. You're doing lots of little runs, you're filling in things, you're trying to show off so that people think, oh, he's really good, isn't he? And so it was a lot more Rainbow, Deep Purple type stuff I would be playing. But then when you come to Burnout Wreck, it was difficult to get to grips with less is more. I could pare it down. It's all about the groove with Burnout Wreck.
Yeah.
You want to hammer out that rhythm, AC/DC type thing, Crocus. You just want that power at the back. A couple of wee fancy bits if you get some space. But less is more, that's the rule. So that took me a wee while to get my head around that. But once you do it, you're there. And it's all there for you. Gary writes the songs, he sends them up. All I have to do is come up with a bass line that fits. And he seems to be happy with whatever it is that I come up with. You go down, you record it, that's fine, yeah, great, album done.
There you go. Nice. Well, and coming back to the gear, you mentioned your Ibanez guitar, your bass, What are you using in the way of amplification?
That's an interesting question, because I played in a band up here. I've got a Trace Elliott micro amp and small speaker I was using up here for the local band I was in. Before that, I had a huge stack with I think it was a Behringer amp. It weighed more than I did. So I said to Gary, look, I'll maybe just buy another amp and keep it down at your place, so it saves me lugging all this about. But he went out and bought an amp, an Ashdown. This big amp, it's a huge, big, marvellous amp in its own flight case. One of those slim ones.
Okay.
All bells and whistles. So I used that when I go down there, and he brings it up. I thought, here. But a lot of the places we do backline is supplied. You know, you're doing a lot of these festivals. So I don't often get to use the Ashdown. You know, you just use whatever's provided for you, because it's always good gear.
Sure.
You've always got top guys and the sound boys, monitors, the whole lot's there. So I generally just turn up and I'll use whatever they've got available. I've got the guitar, I've got my wee foot pedal come tuner. I pick a sound. I've got one sound in that box that I just use all the time. I don't know where it is. B6. It's B6 is the light that comes on. And that's my sound. I just play it. The Ibanez gives me as much tonal control as I want. It's so powerful, you know, it hits you right in the chest. But it's got that sort of little Rickenbacker feel off it, if you want.
Gotcha.
Which I like. I like that top end just to cut through. And that's the way it goes. That's the sound I use wherever I'm playing. So it's the Ashdown amp. Whatever speakers are there, Ibanez.
Nice.
Take it away.
And do you have a preference in strings?
Yes, I do. I use Rotosound, round wound nickel and steel. The thickest gauge, I've got them here, RB50.
Wow.
Roto bass. So, like I say, I just bought a set of them. We were gigging at the weekend, so I thought, I'm going to treat myself. It's been about 2 years since I changed the strings in my bass. Very, very, very tight with the money when it comes to strings. So that's what I love them. They're so sharp and clear and give you a right good ring when you're away there. So yeah, Rotosound 50. And they go from 50 to 110. That's the gauge of them.
Gotcha.
50, 70, 90, 110. As thick as I can get. And we actually detune the guitars to from E to D.
Okay.
Gary's a bit of a screamer, you know, so that helps him. You can't do 2 gigs in a row, and he's going to be needing a poultice in his throat, you know. So we detune slightly, and they just sound great. I love those strings. I tried the nylon ones once, but it was just dead. There was no life in them. So yeah, that's what I use. That's what I order. I like to order 2 or 3 string packets at a time, just in case they stop making them.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting that, again, they last you a good long time, which is a great thing, because certain people I've talked to, you know, they're bands that will go through like a string per night, and a lot of it has to do with the acidity of their skin, and if they sweat a lot, and all of these factors, and you know, it's great. You can get years.
Well, I mean, a huge reason for that is because I don't like spending money.
Yeah.
I try to make my string. I mean, they're like 20. I think those cost me £28 for that set. So, you know, I can't be spending £28 every time we do a gig. They'll be living in the streets.
Yeah.
But make them last as long as I possibly can. And sometimes it's a bit too long. You know, they're a bit on the dead side.
Yeah.
But okay, we can live with that now and again. But with Burn It Out, Rick, I try to keep them. We haven't played that much recently. You know, it's only been like 5 gigs this year, I think. We started gigging in August. So those strings, they were the same strings I had on when we recorded the album last year, so I thought I better change them. You know, it's getting to that point. And I'm glad I did. They sounded great at the weekend. So
there you go.
I can change them more often in the future.
Perhaps. Well, if they work, they work. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, they work, and they make a good sound, and nobody's listening to me anyway. They're all watching him or the guitarists, you know. So I just stand there and If it's a bit dead, it's a bit dead. We'll get away with it, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and as we look ahead, you mentioned new albums releasing next month.
2nd of December, I think.
Okay.
December, yeah.
And any additional plans for touring or things in the future?
Well, yes, like I say, we've got a whole wad of gigs for next year. We've got the Planet Rock one, which is December.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think we're through to maybe March before we start gigging regularly again, because the weather over here in January and February, you just don't want to be going out in a van touring anywhere, and nobody will come and see you anyway because it's dark and it's wet and it's cold. Everybody's poor after Christmas. So I think March we've got quite a few coming up, festivals and a few gigs of our own. So I'm very much looking forward to that, to get out and about again. When you've been off for 2.5 years, it's difficult to get back into, because we're right in the groove, you know, we were really going for it and we were doing great. And then you're interrupted with COVID and the whole thing just, poof, dies a death, you know, so you have to get your motivation back, get back into the excitement. And we're getting there. Yeah, really, really enjoying it again.
Nice, nice. And if people want to know where you're going to be, the best place to look, I suppose, would be burnoutrec.com?
Yes, and we've got a Facebook page as well.
Okay.
So check the Facebook or burnoutrec.com, yeah, it's all there.
Very nice.
I'm not particularly au fait with what's going on the internet side of things. They just keep sending me things. Here you are, find this, find that. Okay. That's we keep in touch by WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
So, we just get messages that way and links and here's a new review. Excellent, lovely. Let's keep them coming. You know.
Very good. Well, Alex, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. Folks, you've seen him here on Bass Musician Magazine, Alex Carmichael.
Thanks very much, folks. Hope to see you all out and about on the road very soon. We hope to see you. We'll over to the States sometime. Who knows? Anybody fancy bringing us over? Give us a shout.